Hello everyone, in the past two videos, we briefly introduced Confucius' personal background and what he taught after founding his private school. So what were Confucius' thoughts and what is Confucianism, Confucius thought and Confucian religion? In this video, we will explore these topics. When Confucius was 27 years old, an important event occurred. It was the 70th year of Duke Zhao of Lu State. At that time, the ruler of the Tan state, called Tanzi, visited the state of Lu. Tanzi was not just a visiting monarch, he was also a highly respected scholar of the time. Upon his arrival in Lu State, Tanzi was warmly welcomed by the people of Lu State, since Tanzi was a descendant of Shao Hao, an ancient emperor. He was very knowledgeable about the governmental systems of that ancient times. At this time, 27-year-old Confucius was very curious about the ancient institutions, which were said to have led to a well-ordered world and peaceful life for the people. Therefore, Confucius sought out Tanzi and asked him for advice. The specific details of their conversation are not fully recorded in the history books. However, as mentioned earlier, Confucius became extremely interested in the ancient institutions after listening to Tanzi's explanation. Many years later, Confucius proposed a series of solutions to social issues, with the core idea being to follow the examples of ancient sages and the systems of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties. Simply put, Confucius believed that to solve social problems, it was necessary to return to the rituals and the music systems of the past, like in the Western Zhou dynasty. Although this was undoubtedly somewhat idealistic, this idealistic governance philosophy led Confucius to struggle with the realities of his time, resulting in short tenures in the various official positions he held and limited effectiveness. During his lifetime, Confucius gained significant fame across various states, partly because of his revolutionary act of teaching noble education to a broad range of disciples, and mainly because his students were genuinely useful and suited to the needs of the spring and autumn period. From a certain perspective, Confucius was one of the earliest human resource experts at his time. Regarding Confucius' students, as we mentioned in previous videos, what Confucius taught, the so-called 6 arts of a gentleman, was essentially the royal education of the Western Zhou dynasty, which was a closed, monopolized education system reserved for the nobility, determined by bloodline and social status. However, there was no blood relationship between Confucius and his disciples. And more importantly, some of Confucius' students did not have the status to receive noble education under the existing feudal system. Therefore, we can see that the education Confucius provided to his disciples actually undermined the feudal order of his time. And what Confucius taught was essentially how to become an official, or more accurately, how to make oneself useful in a chaotic and changing environment. Throughout the Analects of Confucius, Confucius constantly presents the creator of the Western Zhou's ritual and music system, Duke Zhou, as his idol, dreaming of restoring the order established by Duke Zhou. Ironically, if Confucius' dream had been realized, returning to the feudal system of early Zhou would have left no place, no position for someone like him. The historical Confucius was a walking contradiction. While his actions essentially disrupted Zhou's feudal culture, he launched to return to the orderly system of the early Zhou dynasties. However, the environment at that time did not allow him to freely teach the closely guarded knowledge of the royal education to the students across the world. As he did during the spring and autumn period, Confucius was undoubtedly conflicted and somewhat lost internally. Confucius spent his life traveling between different states and seeking official positions. In his spare time, he taught and preached to his disciples, and his words and thoughts were compiled by his students into the Analects. He also revised and compiled many ancient books of the time, leaving behind Confucius' versions of the Book of Psalms, the Book of Documents, the Rites, the Music, and the Changes, the Spring and Autumn Annals, these books. Confucius himself did not summarize the later systematic, theoretical, and dogmatic Confucian thought of the 3 cardinal guides and the 5 constant virtues. For instance, regarding interpersonal relationships, Confucius only had one sentence to say, let the ruler be a ruler, the minister be a minister, the father be a father, and the son be a son, and without any further explanation or extension in words or in sentence. Simply put, rulers, ministers, fathers, and sons should each act according to their roles, without going beyond. That's easy. Besides this, there were no additional explanations. It wasn't until over 400 years later, during Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty, that Dong Zhongshu expanded this simple sentence into lengthy discussions and elevated it to the 3 cardinal guides. The ruler guides the minister, the father guides the son, and the husband guides the wife. What was originally just a casual remark by Confucius became a doctrine that lasted for more than 2,000 years. As for conduct, Confucius proposed the 3 virtues, just not 5, 3, only 3. Benevolence, righteousness, and propriety. Later, Mencius expanded this into benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom. And Dong Zhongshu also further expanded them into benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and faith, eventually forming the concept of the 5 constant virtues. From there, Confucianism evolved into Confucian thought, which mainly served to theoretically justify and maintain the supreme authority and legitimacy of the emperor, while morally persuading the people to abide by laws and not commit crimes. After the Sui and Tang dynasties, with the emergence and gradual development of the imperial examination system based on Confucian texts, Confucian thought became higher elevated, with every word and phrase turned into classics that couldn't be freely interpreted or extended. Confucianism thus mutated into a tool for gaining fame and fortune in reality, a means of restricting creativity spiritually, and a tool for regulating morality and ethics in Confucian religion. In fact, if you really read the Analects without treating it as a national classic, but rather as a memorial or storybook, it can be quite interesting and thought-provoking. However, if you read it with the rigid frameworks of Confucian thought and Confucian religion developed over the centuries, then it becomes extremely tedious. This is why many foreigners now read the Analects, while modern Chinese people tend to avoid it. Foreigners read it without cultural constraints, finding it interesting, whereas modern Chinese people preconceive it as an outdated, cumbersome collection of old paper. So the original Confucian school was more of a philosophical school founded by Confucius. From Confucius' establishment, attracting 3,000 disciples, to the later logical developments by Mencius and Xunzi, based on social realities. This group was a fascinating collective with members from all walks of life and various professions. There were no strict rules or frameworks on them, and the real Confucius was not as rigid or dogmatic as often portrayed. Instead, he was someone with rough outward appearances but with great inner wisdom, capable of both archery, horseback, and teaching. He was an idealist with a humorous and endearing side to his words and actions. If Confucius knew that his school eventually evolved into Confucian thought, became a tool for imperial power, and further into Confucian religion, which restricted people's thoughts, he would probably cry his heart out. That's all for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and follow. Also, please feel free to share and comment. Thanks for watching. Bye. See you in next video.